Greetings! Hello! Welcome to the stream. Welcome to another Listen Along stream. I'm just going to jump us over to the chat window, which is over here. Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for coming along to another Listen Along stream. I am joined by a lot of people this time round. And we're none of us are sick this time round. We're all well as far as I'm aware. We're all well and we're all doing okay. So already we're kind of improving on the last one. As much as last time was fun in a sort of slightly feral, snotty kind of way. Hello everyone in chat. We've got quite a few people already talking about, a lot of people saying that they love this episode and that it's their favorite, and we have lots of people with lots of theories, which I'm sure we'll kind of get into later on. So I think we just introduce everybody once more. There's a lot of us to get through today, so I'm going to sort of go along from kind of go along from where I am. So, Ella, could you introduce yourself for us?
Yes. Hi. Sorry, I was typing in the chat, and I feel like I'm a kid in school who's been caught texting. Anyway, hi, I'm Ella. My pronouns are she, her. I wrote and directed this show. It's my baby. I have lots of opinions about Wales. This is a map of Wales and the Mabinogi. Yeah, that's me. Hi.
Oh shit!
You're playing sound effects.
Yeah, sorry.
I like that came off the back of my introduction. It's like Ella goes hi, and then Amber hits the button. It's like, no!
Sorry, everyone. It's because I was testing out that I was putting the new commands in. I used Command Ella, and then a little link came up, and I was so proud of myself. Then I forgot I hadn't turned the music off, so it just started playing Kai's section of the episode, like an early draft of it that I'd left in the project file. So sorry about that, everyone. Don't be distressed. I do know what I'm doing most days. I promise. So moving swiftly on from that disaster. Hi, Paul. You want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Paul. He, him. I play Gwen, who's not in this episode, but he's pretty cool. Moving on. I've got a boring wall. I've not got any maps to show you. I'm sorry.
Then we'll move on down to Ross.
Hi, I am Ross. I am the production manager on Camlann. I have a bisexual flag and a bisexual life. That's what I've got behind me. Hello.
You've got a bisexual life behind you. Does that mean you've moved on from it?
It's on both sides, Amber, obviously.
All sides, all around.
Also, just to put it, so for all of the kind of chat commands that I've got for everyone, for everyone, it's their character names, except for obviously myself, Ross, and Ella. So it's just been like, we've had Gwen, and then it's just Ross, and it's just like we're getting slightly just these random normal names in the midst of everything.
Are you saying we've got like people with special names and people with not special names? We could even say that some of them.
Oh, I don't know, Ella. Could we? Can we
We're all dead. In the apocalypse, we're all dead. We're all screwed.
We're the crowd in episode 2 yelling at the dragon, yelling about the dragon.
Yeah. Hey, I get eaten.
Okay, so next up we have Robin, I think.
Oh no, I was moving my chair. I'm Robin. My pronouns are they, them. I play Perry. I have a trans flag behind me, but you can't quite see it. I fear if I show you, it'll just like ruin my room. There we go. Look, it's cute. I also apparently have trans pillows. I didn't realize that until just this moment. Hey, we are a matching room. Yeah, I don't have much else to say. Hi, guys. Oh, and Cerberus is here too.
Aww.
Puppy.
And next up, for the first time on stream, for the Camlann Listenalongs, Nicole, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Nicole. I play Gwen. My pronouns are she, her. And since we're showing our walls, here's my hat wall.
I didn't want to ask about the wall of hats because I was very much just like, that felt rude, but that's amazing. A wall of hats.
My little wall of hats. Yeah. So, welcome to little section of my life. Yeah, happy to be here. Super excited.
It is wonderful to have you here. Like it's a shame that Ankarad couldn't be here tonight because then we would have had the full team. But we still have most of a series to do that. But it's wonderful to have so many people here, and it is wonderful to finally have you with us, Nicole. And last but not least, Tobias. Hello, would you care to introduce yourself?
My name is Tobias. Pronouns he, him. I don't have hats behind me. I'm actually quite sad. I have a pan flag. Pan is ahead and behind and in between, literally. And loads of teddies. So I've got. I'm not going to go through the teddies.
I mean, you could wear a pan as a hat.
Oh.
Maybe. I don't know.
Dos panva. And I'm going to do the stream now. Goodbye.
You know what? You're doing a great job of filling in for Angharad's jokes. Like, it's
She's here in spirit.
Marvelous.
God
Ella, would
bless.
you like to introduce this episode? Because this is quite a fun one, I think.
Yes. As Paul mentioned, Gwen isn't in this episode. He wasn't in episode 3 either. Where is he? We don't know. But as of the end of episode 3, we had the wonderful Shujun, or Gwen, joining us, having been kind of found in the woods, attracted by the bonfire that Dai set up successfessfully. We're all giggling because sometimes when we hear the word bonfire, it sounds like bumfire. But no, so Gwen arrives with us and joins us, and this is of significance because if you've been listening to the series so far, hopefully you have. If you've just joined for episode 4, this is a serialized story. You might want to start with number 1. But if you've been listening to the series so far, that you know that like people in this magical apocalypse have like magical names, and their magical names give them certain powers. And what's especially kind of worrying about the name Guinevere is that, of course, she's in charge. She gets to tell everyone else what to do. She's especially in charge of knights like Sir Peredir and Sir Gawain, and an enemy question mark of someone like Morgan Le Fay, if you know your Arthuriana. So she's here now. The gang don't know her. She's a stranger, and she's kind of uneasily fitting in with the gang, whilst they kind of decide what they're going to do next. Yeah, that's an introduction, right?
It was great. Yeah, no, it was marvelous. Very thorough.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. I prepared it beforehand. Everything.
Amazing. Okay, well, yeah. Let's. Sorry, I've got like a thing in my throat, and it sounds like I'm going through puberty again. I'm sorry. Okay. Yes. So. Yes. So we're gonna listen to episode 4 now. Let's listen to the episode where we're being very on time. This stream. The theme of this stream is being on time. I've decided we're gonna keep everything to time.
Really?
As much
Is
as
that
possible.
okay?
Look,
I'm so sorry for my
let
presence.
me have this, please.
Just-
Give me one stream.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's
Okay.
we should all aim high, I think.
I'm
Aim for
following.
the stars, and if you fail, you'll land among the clouds. Or whatever that goes.
Yeah, exactly. Wise words from Paul. Okay, Amber, take it away.
Okay, right. Well, we're gonna head on over to to episode 4. So we'll be back in about 25 minutes, half an hour, and we hope you enjoy Camlann episode 4, Into the Fire.
Sosban berwi ar y tap. Sosban fawr yn berwi ar y llaw. Ar gaf wedi trafod. Sosban fach yn berwi ar y tân. Sosban fawr yn berwi ar y llaw. Gath wedi sgramo Johnny Rye. Everybody dies. That's life, right? That's the one big, endless, inescapable truth of existence. Things end. Things have to end. We change and we grow and we unravel. Nothing lasts forever. And that's a good thing. I think we mean more because we stop. Just because something happens once doesn't mean it gets forgotten. The infinite recycling of matter is the universe's way of remembering itself. Breaking out of that is like a broken record. Stuck repeating the same phrase, falling out of time with the music. You're trapped on your own, endlessly repeating yourself in a place you were never meant to be.
Eventually, you forget there was ever anything else.
And this is the garage. I'm gonna fix the leak.
It's lovely.
It's not much, but it's home. For now, at least.
How long were you traveling before?
About 6 months. We were with a group of survivors for the first 3, but it didn't work out.
I don't think I've stayed in one place since the cataclysm. It always felt too dangerous.
We have Perry to thank for that. We have Perry to thank for a lot of things.
He certainly seemed like a useful person to have around.
We all have our skills. For example, I'm the team engineer, and I just finished fixing up this beauty.
Wait, that thing actually works?
She isn't pretty, but she'll do the job.
Are these yours?
Yeah, it looks a lot worse than it is. I just keep having these nightmares.
About dogs?
Not exactly. I don't think they're normal dogs. When I dream of them, they're this pack of huge black hounds with red glowing eyes.
Like the Hound of the Baskervilles in Sherlock Holmes?
Sort of. But these are older. Angrier. They feel like they're caught between me and the land. Sometimes they feel like women. Very angry women. People who are hurting. Other times they're just big dogs. It's better when they're dogs.
What does that mean?
I don't know. It just feels better. They feel free. Which, now I'm saying it out loud, is actually more terrifying.
Why?
Think about it. The phenomena are step 1. We're seeing these bizarre, terrifying things. They're killing us. But what's step 2? What if it's assimilation? We start wanting it. We start seeking it out. Like a fever, or the way depression makes you scared of getting better. Sickness wants to stay.
So, in this hypothesis, what's step 3?
Total transformation. We become them.
Camlann, Episode 4, Into the Fire.
Perry, you had a head wound 3 days ago. Sit down.
A head wound which doesn't exist anymore. That happens to you as well?
Right, you're Guinevere. Yeah, injuries only stick around while they're plot relevant. So Rudyard doesn't get his head cracked open by Lantern Man, so our Perry magically heals.
Guinevere never really gets hurt by anything. And not even her pyre, as long as Lancelot shows up in time to save her. I'm trying not to think about it.
It's okay. Just because they speak with confidence doesn't mean they know how this works. None of us do.
We've figured out some things.
Like the fact that my bonfire was a great idea. Right, Gwen? It worked.
Is it still burning? It's pouring with rain.
I gave it a roof. Found a tarpaulin in the garage.
Because everyone loves the smell of burning plastic.
And huge fire hazards.
It has a chimney. Well, it has a hole in the tarp. But the point is that it brought Gwen here, which is a good thing. Right, Morgan?
What? Yeah, of course.
Honestly, it doesn't feel real.
How long were you alone out there?
Long enough.
Well, you're not alone anymore. And we're glad to have you. Aren't we, Per?
Did you bring any supplies with you?
No, sorry. I'd lost pretty much everything by the time I got to the woods.
Which isn't your fault. Your coffee's up.
I still can't believe you have actual coffee.
I'm not sure we can call it actual coffee.
Morgan, how's the truck coming along?
She's ready. Why?
I'm thinking it's time for a supply run. We can head into Carmarthen, see what we can see.
Can I come?
No.
I could be useful.
Di, you know why it can't be you.
Fine.
I was actually thinking Gwen could come with me. You had to trek through Carmarthen to get here, right?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
Perry, she got here 3 days ago. She's exhausted and traumatised and in no state to be going on field trips.
We're all exhausted and traumatised.
Really? Is this what we're doing now?
That's okay. I'll go. Perry's right. I've been through most recently. I can help. I want to help.
Thank you, Gwen.
Welcome to the team.
Hey, Per, can you get something for me while you're out there?
I can try. What is it?
I found this radio. The transceiver's broken. Can you see if you can find any spare parts?
I can have a look at it if you want.
I'll see what I can do.
Thanks, guys.
What's with the crossbow?
Ideally be a spear. That's more in keeping with Peredia.
Story weapons for story monsters. Not many AK-47s show up in folklore, so in this apocalypse you actually can bring a knife to a gunfight. Bullets do pretty much nothing to phenomena, but a crossbow bolt is a literal stake to the heart. Not that we've tried everything.
I still think we should go all Buffy and get a rocket launcher.
And when you find that magical supply closet, Di, you can indulge your inner pyromaniac to your heart's content. We'll be back by sundown.
And if you were not?
It was nice knowing you.
Don't mind them.
They're an optimist.
Come on, let's get inside.
Is there a problem?
I was actually gonna ask you that.
All good here.
Nope. No, it's not.
What makes you say that?
You've just been very tense.
It's the end of the world.
It's more than that. Have I done something to offend you? Whatever it is, I apologize.
No, you're right. I'm sorry. It's just your name.
Shujin?
Guinevere. We've had bad experiences with monarchs in the past. I've had bad experiences with monarchs in the past.
Monarchs?
King Arthur, specifically. We've got story names, right? The names of characters from famous stories.
Except I.
Except I. For whatever reason, the apocalypse doesn't apply to any religion we know of, so David doesn't help him here.
Okay, so what happened with Arthur?
The first group of survivors we fell in with were based in Bristol. They called themselves the Knights of the Round Table. The Knights. Mostly they were the university rugby team.
What happened?
We figured out some things pretty quickly. We had a good-sized group of survivors and a lot of names, specifically story names. Even more specifically, compatible names. Turns out, if you're between the West Country and Wales, you get a lot of Arthuriana. So we figured things out. Story weapons work better than modern ones. The more people you have in your story, the stronger it is. And the more you lean into it, the better it works. Arthur and his men knew they were safer if they acted more like medieval knights. But everything they knew about medieval history came from Game of Thrones. So, you can imagine how that went.
I'm sorry, but I don't understand what this has to do with me.
There's this thing that monarchs can do. It's this compulsion. Arthur didn't even realise he was doing it at first. He's just an entitled prick. It's how he talks to people. But when you give commands, they stick. If you're nameless, you're basically defenceless. It was like he was hypnotising people en masse. They do things they never would have.
And what if you have a name?
Depends on whether you're part of his story. If you're not, the stories kind of clash. You can pick a different version, a different ending. But me and the others, the whole point of us was to exist at his whim. I can still feel it. The worst part is it doesn't even feel bad. It's this endless, aching longing for him. For all of them. All I want is to go home, take up my spear, be who I'm supposed to be.
But you're here.
Because that place isn't my home. Not for me, or Morgan, or Di. Honestly, Gwen, you scare me.
Then why tell me all of this? Why give me that power?
You already had it. In the same way, I know how to use a crossbow. You can feel it at the back of your head, like Pandora's box, just waiting for you to open it.
I don't want to hurt you, but I do.
I'm not sure that matters. This place is a ghost town.
Hopefully, not literally. Come on, supermarket's this way.
Did you see anything last time you were here?
Nope, but I was on my own. I didn't want to stick around for too long.
Right.
Here we are.
It's untouched.
If there are any survivors near here, they've been getting their supplies from elsewhere.
Or no one else survived.
Cheerful outlook.
I'm a realist. Did you see anyone at all on your way here? Neither did we.
I found you.
And your name is Guinevere. I don't think that's a coincidence.
So what? You think only people with names survived?
I think the nameless were hit hardest. Morgan thinks we've already lost, that this is some kind of zombie apocalypse purgatory, that we've been raptured without realising it.
I don't remember Guinevere spending this much time in Wilkins.
That's my point. Yeah. Oh, great water! Gwen, can you help me with this?
Sorry. I was just getting these.
Yarn.
And circular needles. We're gonna need warm clothes as it gets colder.
Any other skills I should know about?
Well, I was actually...
Did you hear that?
Toilet roll! Yes! Perry! I think there's something in here with us.
Hang on. Let me just get this.
Peridia! Seriously!
What is it?
Something is watching us. Can't you feel it?
Whatever it is, it's leaving us alone for now. Come on.
Please, listen. I don't know who or what you are, but you are hurting my friend, and I need you to stop. I don't want to hurt you. Neither of us do. And I get it. You're scared. You're angry. You're confused. This isn't where you're supposed to be. This isn't where any of us are supposed to be. And maybe you can't take it out on whoever or whatever did this to you, but you can take it out on us, and that's good enough. But if you are like us, if you are like me, then it should matter that we aren't the people who hurt you. You don't have to be the monster that everyone thinks you are. You're still you, and you have a choice. Please, leave us alone. I am ordering you to wake up!
So, are we going to talk about it?
I don't know. Did your near-death experience make you reconsider anything about the way you're currently handling the apocalypse?
That's not fair.
Isn't it? I had to watch you drown. Do you have any idea how frightening that was?
It wasn't exactly sunshine and roses
But
for
it
me.
didn't have to happen. You could have stopped it.
And something worse could have happened instead. Neither of us understands how this works, Morgan. We're off the map. If I tried, then...
Morgan! Die! I need your help! Oh my god.
Hurry.
There's so much blood!
Die! They're slipping. Grab their shirts, not their arms.
Morgan, clear the table. Get me water and a clean cloth. Now.
On it.
What happened?
We were attacked. Oh, help me prop their legs up.
But you're fine.
Perry was attacked first.
How long have they been out?
Thanks. Press down on any open wounds you can see. We need to stop the bleeding.
Gwen, how long have they been out?
Just over an hour. Die. You are not helping, so either pull yourself together and do something or get out of my way.
Okay. What do you need?
Wake them up. Morgan, I need all the medical supplies you've got. Now.
Okay.
Hey, Bear. Can't believe the damn cowlick survived all of this. Rest assured that even in life-threatening peril, you still have perfect hair. I need you to wake up now, okay? Because if you don't wake up, then things are going to be really bad, and that is not going to happen because that is not how this story goes. You don't meet your end without me. We're a match set, right? Butch and Sundance, Thelma and Louise, Skelder and Mully. You're not going to leave me like this. We get breaded. We've got to stop meeting like this.
Everything hurts.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, I'm tired.
I know, but you can't go to sleep yet, okay?
Anything else?
Help me hold their legs still.
Shh, it's okay, it's okay. Hey, look at me. Talk to me about the Mabinogi. You love doing that. And you're a hell of a lot more interesting than my secondary school Welsh teacher.
Oh, no, bar.
Humour me.
You know, Gwydion?
One of my favourites, the cheeky bastard.
I always thought there was something queer about his relationship with Lay. Like trans. Because Gwydion was a mother, kind of. And then his children were taken from him. And then he gets so fixated on having his kids.
Bath's ready.
What?
I made you a bath. Figured I wasn't useful down here.
You got the hot water working?
I used the fire.
Morgan,
I needed a distraction. I left some clean towels for you on the side.
Right.
Go on. It'll get cold otherwise.
It was the dogs.
Oh, God.
No, you don't understand. You saved our lives.
Perry is
alive. Because of you.
How?
Because you're right. They're like us. I don't know how literal that is, if it is the final stage of the infection or something else. But they can think and feel and respond to reason.
That's not how it works.
But it is how this worked. Morgan, I was able to talk to them. And the only reason I even thought to try was because of you.
What's your point?
Maybe it doesn't have to be kill or be killed. Maybe this isn't a story about heroes and villains. Maybe it's messier than that. You know what I saw when they left? As they walked past the doors of the supermarket? I saw their reflection in the glass. And in the glass, they weren't these huge, terrifying dogs. They were women. Just normal women.
The bath really is gonna go cold.
Right. Sorry. Thank you. Again.
Don't mention it.
And that is episode 4. Episode 4 of our series.
Into the Fire
I'm gonna
written and directed by
just
Ella
quickly
Ward.
sort this so we don't
Produced
accidentally
by Amber
play the
Devereaux,
next episode,
with
which we
additional
don't
sound
want.
design from guest sound
That's
Amber,
design
no!
by Chris.
Let me just quickly
The original score is by Amber
let me
Devereaux.
just dial down that volume there because we don't want to.
Why did you just put us into a trauma? I wasn't stressed before. That wasn't a
Look,
possibility.
look, you hear that? You hear that? That's the volume going down, and it's muted now. So no spoilers today. No spoilers at all.
Good episode though. You've
Just
really
leave it-
it's good.
Just leave
Yeah,
it on
episode 5
1%
is
as an
great.
Easter egg.
Oh, wonderful. So we were sort of we were talking about this while we were off. This was quite a weird episode to record, right? Like there was just lots of weird things that we did. But also like I'd forgotten about this, but like Nicole, this was like your first day on recording when we did this. Like what
Lots
was that
screaming.
like? I was gonna say that's an intense first day. What was that like?
Just gotta jump straight into it, especially when you end up on top of Robin and pretending that she's dying.
they had to be on the sofa and pretending to be mauled by dogs, and meanwhile Nicole was like on the other end of the sofa looking at her phone.
Yes, there was a lot of being mauled in this episode. It was great fun.
I think also like we sort of mentioned it on the last listen along. Like there was a point. I think it was this episode where I turned to Robin and went, "I'm sorry, it always seems to be you that has to do this sort of thing." Like the rolling.
Oh,
around
this is when I discussed and I did the whole. It's okay. This is playing to casting type. My casting type is torture the cinnamon roll. And I am well aware that that's my job. My job is that I turn. There's a lot on my show reel of me bruised and broken. I don't know. People just see me and they're like, "You're adorable. Beat it." And I'm like, I don't know what that says about me, but it's fine.
Well, it's like that kind of cuteness instinct where you get the cuteness aggression, where you see something cute and then you want to crush it. I think, but also to be fair, from a narrative perspective, Perry is the person who can survive the most wounds. Yes. Anyone who's read any Arthuriana, the level of injuries that those knights go through and miraculously survive is truly wild. And whereas like physical injury for someone like Morgan is less good. Like, to be fair, like Morgan is never injured in Arthuriana, but because generally she's a mistress of like illusions, and I imagine like in Arthuriana if someone tried to stab her she'd probably be like, lol, that was a mirage. But our Morgan doesn't have the kind of same like supernatural durability that the knights do, but bless them, Gwaine and Berry can take quite a beating, so unfortunately for them they will take quite a beating, but
that's the series.
It's just like that author thing where like there's always a character who gets like stabbed in the shoulder because it's somewhere that you can stab someone and it's like a serious injury but they're not going to die, but you still have to worry about them because now they can't like use a sword and shit, and so you just get them stabbed in the shoulder. And like Perry and Gwaine are just kind of my characters for that. Like I can just kind of throw shit at them and generally speaking they're gonna survive. Unless, except in very specific circumstances, like Arthur or Lancelot. So on Nicole's first day, we recorded the scene where Morgan and Gwen meet in episode 3, which is a scene that I really loved recording, and you guys did such like that was like you and Angharad pretty much met whilst recording that scene as well, which was wild. Like, how was that to record, Nicole?
To be fair, we had instant chemistry, so it was quite easy. And we got along so well, so it was very easy to do. It wasn't anything that was like, I was a bit nervous because obviously it was my first day. Everyone else had met, but it was very fun. It was so fun to do, and I think to be thrown into the deep end as soon as you go in is almost easier than like trying to ease yourself into it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's interesting because both you and Angharad as Gwen and Morgan, and then Paul and Tobias as Di and Gwaine had this thing where like you had a bunch of scenes with just each other to start with as new people on set. So like for Nicole, like Nicole joined late, and then she got like the scene in episode 3, then the opening of this episode where like Gwen and Morgan are just going around the garage and stuff before she then had like group scenes, and then obviously for Paul and Tobias, they have these conversations on the radio. So like there's a lot of just them being like in separate rooms, but at least like having just like one other person rather than like the whole group.
Nicole wasn't locked in another room on the first day.
Yeah, that's true. we didn't isolate Nicole. But
okay, just to be very clear, we didn't isolate Paul either. Okay.
That's how it felt.
We can have a discussion about it.
Lunch with us.
Basically, what we had was like we knew that Paul did a lot of like video games and stuff, and we know that he mostly works by himself. So for his comfort, we decided to shut him in a small room by himself and have people kind of radio.
That is my natural habitat. To be fair. I do like hobbit holes. I did call it a hobbit hole a few times, I think. So
yeah, we called it various things.
Tried to use a different nickname every time to keep it spiced up.
Well, it's because I think at one point I called it your dungeon or basement or something, and Ross and Amber told me off for making it sound depressing.
Also, it's my wife's office as well. So if anything, it's just rude.
Yeah, like, a lot of nice artwork up on there. It's a nice room. Of all any room to be trapped in. That was fucking the worst.
Okay, again, wasn't trapped in the room. Paul could have left anytime he wanted to. Just want to make that very clear.
Get that out. There was like a social pressure for him to stay in the room, but like, the torment was psychological.
Fire in their eyes as they locked the door.
And they always slid the key under the door when it was time for me to come out. You know, it was all under my control when it was time to clock out at the end of the day.
We had like words we could do. We gave him a space. It's fine.
Anyway, yeah. One thing that I really enjoy is the kind of dynamic between Morgan and Gwen, which we see a bit in this like first episode, because obviously like Nicole, you joined the cast late, but also like Gwen joins our survivors and she doesn't know them all. Like Di and Gwaine at least knew each other like before the apocalypse, as well as after, and then obviously Di, Morgan and Perry have known each other for like the last 9 months, but Gwen, like she meets everyone now, and she kind of can tell that they all have a dynamic with each other and that they all know each other really well, and she feels like she's like the person on the outside, and you know, she's in the middle of the countryside of Wales. There's been monsters everywhere. She doesn't have any food left. She really needs to be in this cottage. And I think that you and I, Nicole, talked a bit about how Gwen is like pretty much throughout this episode kind of trying to do a bit of like diplomacy about like making sure that they don't like make her leave. Oh my god. Hi, Angharad.
Just to make the chat clear, Amber did not trap Angharad in the toilet. Like they did all.
She was in the cast for longer, so she's on a higher level than me.
Just to be clear, I like to pride myself on how I run recording sessions and how I treat actors that come into this studio, and I don't lock people in rooms, I promise.
No, we miss you too, Angharad.
We miss you.
But yes. So, Nicole, how did you find kind of like negotiating that both like as an actor and for the character of Gwen, of trying to kind of be nice whilst also having to play a character who isn't sure if she can trust these people, and like all of that kind of tension?
Good question. I feel like, I guess I'm quite similar to her in general as a person. Like I'm very good at like going along with things and like observing people a lot more before I kind of, how do I put this? Like before, I like observing before trusting people. So then I guess with her, it's kind of the same thing. So then it was quite easy for me to slip into that thing of just being like, I'm just gonna see where I stand with everyone, which is why it's so funny when Perry just doesn't give me anything. And I'm like, why are they being mean to me when I've not done anything? And then, yeah, it becomes a bit more like, ooh, I don't know how to play this with them. But yeah, then it makes it more interesting with the dynamic between me and Morgan, and then me and Perry, me and Di. Yeah, because I guess as in life, you have to figure out where you stand with people as well. So then, it was quite interesting.
I like. What do you think that Gwen's first impressions were of Perry, Morgan, and Di? Like, what do you think that she initially thought of each of them?
Ooh, I think Morgan, very friendly. Not going to say anything more. And then with Di, very much like a little puppy dog golden retriever vibe. And then with Perry, I feel like the first impression of them would be, I don't know, I think a bit cautious. But also a kind of respect there for them. Yeah, and then it grows.
Yeah, for sure. I remember when we were writing these scripts, and I wrote this like really tense, really bitchy conversation between Perry and Gwen in the episode, but I didn't explain any of the name stuff or like why Perry was stressed. And then I was like, we were doing like a script review session, and Ross was talking to me. Ross was like, "Why is Perry being so mean? Like Perry is really mean to Gwen, and I don't know why." And I was like, "Oh, because like Perry's stressed that she's gonna like mind control them, and because she's got this power just like Arthur does, because like Arthur would like mind control them and stuff and make them do things they didn't want to do." And Ross just looked at me for a second and then was like, "Ella, none of this is in the script." And I was like, "Oh yeah."
Yeah, because I think at first there was like it was two scenes, and there was one. The first scene they basically trade knowledge on what they know about what names mean in the apocalypse, and in the second scene they're just really mean to each other, and I'm like, but like. Surely they both know what each of their names mean, because they both seem to have worked that out. They now have that knowledge. Why aren't they talking about it? Or they're just like, well, you're Guinevere, and that means this to me, so I'm worried.
Like it was such an interesting thing, because I obviously like I worked on the series for so long that like it got to the point where these scripts went through like 8 drafts that I kind of forgot what people reading or listening didn't know. And so I'd be like, "Oh well, yeah, like of course Barry feels like this, because like of course you would know all that." And I kind of forgot that if you just came to this cold, you'd be like, "The fuck is going on?" So I was like, okay, I need to like add some more explanation. And then sometimes like I actually got a Canadian friend of mine to read the scripts for like passive knowledge of British folklore and like Arthuriana, because I made a bunch of assumptions about like how many famous stories people would be very familiar with, and like one in particular that's coming up quite soon that I'm not going to mention. I was like, "Oh, well, of course, everyone knows this one. This is like the most famous one. Like, they would definitely know this one. I'm not going to retell that story because that would be ridiculous." And then I had like just references to it in the last draft of the script. My Canadian friend was like, "What is going on? I don't understand. I think that something important's happening, but I don't know what it is." And I was like, "Oh my God." Anyway, that's not really that interesting because I'm not giving you any detail. Everyone else is allowed to talk.
I believe I also didn't know that story at all when I read the script.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening here.
This is the thing. It's like there's an XKYCD comic about how like 2 geologists talking to each other and being like, "Well, it's not reasonable to expect the average person to know the molecular structure of like most crystals, but like everyone probably knows like 1 or 2. Like everyone knows quartz. Yeah, for sure. Everyone knows the molecular structure of quartz." And then the caption is like, "Experts in the field always overestimate people's familiarity with their specialist subject. Like they always assume that you know more than you do." But anyway, obviously we are delighted to have Nicole here, and also this episode 4, is very much Gwen's episode. For people who follow the Camlann Tumblr, I've been posting character playlists with like commentary about each character as their episodes come out. So like the first episode we had Di's playlist, and then second episode was Morgan, third episode was Perry. So this one next Monday I'll post Gwen's playlist with a few more thoughts about like kind of what the songs are and why the songs are in there. But we also have other cast members here. Robin, like there's a lot of Perry in this episode too, and Perry is not being nice. Perry's being quite grumpy. How was that to play?
It's a bit hard when you meet a lovely new actor and you're like, hello, I'm going to be meeting you for the rest of the day. No, I think it's very understandable because I think Perry is coming from a place of really wanting to protect everybody and has got a lot of trauma about everything that's going on. And I think it's Perry, the thing is, Perry and Gwen have a lot in common. They are both the people they're both very practical. They're both the grown-ups in some ways. And it was interesting even doing the scenes because it's sort of easy to think, oh yes, I'm being very grumpy, but actually they do kind of connect on a level of yeah, we understand each other in a slightly different way. I think they're both pragmatists and they're both very practical, which means that there's a lot of similarities. And as we sort of go through the series, we'll sort of see more of that. But in terms of how it is to do in this episode, there's a lot of physical stuff. There's a lot of and crying and throwing myself around, which was good fun. A lot of exposition as well. And this was one of the things that sort of, I remember us talking and very much it being a case of how do we not make this sound like, I'm giving you loads of data, and we kind of keep it live and keep it alert and keep that sharing from not sounding monologue-y. So there was a few challenges in this, but yeah, in terms of what it's like, I think Perry can just get grumpy, but I think they're looking for someone to blame a little bit. Maybe I don't know if this is something that Ella, this is something but they have to be the nice one. They have to be. It's like we heard in the Lantern Man episode. They have to be the strong, nice, tough one. And suddenly there's someone here who they actually can blame, and they're not the right person because the person they're blaming is, as we learn, Arthur. But this is Guinevere. And I think there's part of Perry that's going, well, yeah, of course I'm going to be like, yeah, Guinevere, you know what's going to happen? You're clearly going to, I'm not saying this is what happens in the script, but what Perry's thinking is you're going to meet Arthur, it's all going to be awful, and you're going to bring the knights here, and I've just had a conversation with, someone I shouldn't talk about, and I'm feeling stressed, and is projecting their own guilt for their own actions onto this person who they can blame. So I understand why Perry is behaving the way they are, although as an actor I am just a bit like, but Nicole is really nice, and I want to have the nice scenes like everybody else. Instead, I'm going to be grumpy.
Robin is the nicest person.
it's Patrick Stewart looking at the camera acting. But yeah, like it's No, Patrick Stewart's the one who does the acting gif.
I thought it was. Oh no, but it's the Ian McKellen. The "You shall not pass."
Yeah.
That's Ian.
But I really enjoyed that, and I think that's such a good point about Perry always wanting to find someone to blame. Because like I don't know, I think it's interesting. Like last episode, we heard Perry have that conversation with Kay, and then break the radio. They haven't told anyone that they had that conversation with Kay, and they didn't tell anyone that they broke the radio. And now Di is being like, can you fix the radio? But Di isn't being like, I've had the radio and I've been talking to someone, because Di still hasn't told anyone that he's been talking to Gwen. So it's just a lot of like not telling each other things and trying to push the blame off somewhere else. I really enjoyed, Tobias, the job that you did in this episode, which is like, especially at the start, where Di obviously so very, very badly, and like a big theme of his character throughout the series is wanting to find other people, because like other people in community are so important to him. And then Perry is immediately really mean to the first person you find, and you keep trying to like ease the conflict. And I really loved the way that you came in every time you did with like, but we're being nice, aren't we, Perry? Like how was that to play in kind of that dynamic?
So genuinely, this is going to be a really weird reference, but all it made me think of when I read the script is Hindu energy. The reason I say this,
correct.
From when I used to work at an escape room and we had Hindus in, and if there was ever a fight, it would always be Hindus. There'd be one member of the group sort of being like, but we need to be nice to each other. We're here for a nice night out. Can we all just get along? And that is the energy that I felt in that scene. Like, we're all having a nice breakfast, aren't we, Perry? It's fine, isn't it? And that's all I could think of.
That is, I love it. We also talked about. I know, it's just like, it's perfect. It's exactly it. We also like, I really loved when Perry is packing the truck, I remember, so we had Robin doing some great effort sounds. We love some effort sounds in audio drama. And Tobias was like, well, should I be doing effort sounds? I was like, no, Di is not helping. Di is standing there watching with a cup of tea.
I think for this scene, we genuinely said to Tobias, like, Tobias, can you make yourself a coffee and just drink that during the scene? Like,
It was great, and it was so funny to just stand there and watch all of these episodes being made, and I'm just like, it's chill.
Which I really loved. And I loved like kind of like Di and Gwen kind of getting to have this like little interaction as well of like Di kind of explaining things to Gwen while Gwen's got questions, and Gwen and Di are kind of standing on the side whilst Morgan and Perry are getting the truck sorted. Because I do think like Nicole said, like I don't think that Gwen necessarily thinks of Di as like an adult on the same level as like she doesn't. She kind of immediately sees that he's maybe not as responsible as some of the others. She's kind of like, okay.
Going for the puppy thing again, it very much to me feels like, even listening back to it, it's the energy of a puppy who has gone up to their owners and gone like, play with me. They're not playing with me. Someone new's in the house. I'll bring you the toy out. Like, it's that. It's like, you'll talk to me because you're not sick of me yet. So let's have it.
Perry, meanwhile, is like, I have to keep him alive. Oh dear God. Just perpetual, like, oh my God.
Bowl or he won't drink.
Oh, it's like, what's that comic with the dog and the little kitten?
I don't know.
Brutus and Pixie, that comic, if anyone's seen it.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
There's this big dog that just carries around this tiny kitten, and Barry's like, I must protect.
I just like, for me, it's like Huffington Post woman being like, when she's got all the puppies and then crying because she can't protect them. I feel like that's just Perry would die. So Paul, you're not in this episode, and you've been very patiently and very sweetly sitting here quietly whilst we've all been talking for like 45 minutes. What are your thoughts on the episode and the story as it's unfolding?
Well, I think I did say in the group chat personally, this is my favorite episode yet, because like everybody has a moment, including the sound design itself has its moments. And the reasons that I gave for liking it, I can't exactly say verbatim because spoilers. But can I just say, as in general, build up, like foreshadowing? Can I just say foreshadowing?
Yeah, you can say foreshadowing. We got some foreshadowing. I think we can share that.
Foreshadowing. There's Gwen making a splash at the ball of the house, lonely house on the prairie. There's the the chat about just talking about Arthur a bit more, how it's not great over in Camelot, and just the brutality of the shop scene. Like the sound, like when I first heard the kind of Silent Hill-esque like radio noises and all that. I love that. Yeah, I don't want to open my mouth in case I say things I shouldn't. Long story short, this is my personal favorite so far. So
yeah,
everybody here, the cast knows why I love it.
So, and thank you. Like it's such a like I'm really glad, because honestly, like writing this, I went back and forth on like I think episodes 2, 4, and 6 I found the hardest to write. So I'm very pleased that people like episode 4. But also it's interesting in terms of the brutality, because I think that's one thing about the apocalypse generally is like that the cataclysm. One of the reasons that like our main characters keep kind of comparing notes is that like as folks will know if you're familiar with folklore, like folklore doesn't always operate by the same rules. Like in some stories, being a liar or a cheat or a thief is a good thing, and sometimes it's a really bad thing. And so there's lots of conflicting stories. And so like there are like certain like shifts in how it all works. And one of the big and important ones is that like Di says at the start of the episode with this, like injuries don't stick if your character doesn't have them, but if you die, that's it. Like you don't come back to life. And specifically monsters and creatures and people from outside your story are the biggest threat to you, because people like within your story, they can hurt you, but only within the terms of your story, because as soon as they start changing that, like Arthur never kills Gwaine, so Arthur can't kill Gwaine, because like as soon as he tried to do that, he would start losing the power of being Arthur, and if he lost the power of being Arthur, he wouldn't be strong enough to be able to kill Gwaine anyway, because Gwaine's fucking Gwaine. But if we met a Jack, like a Jack and the Beanstalk, and Jack wanted to kill Gwaine, Jack absolutely could. Like that would be a more of an even fight. And then you start getting into kind of the comparative power of like the stories, in terms of the stories themselves have power in terms of how well known a story is. Like, so what Arthur, for example, has been doing with the knights is he's like overpowering other people's story, because King Arthur is such a famous story that like most stories are less well known and have less people who believe in it. And then Arthur has his survivors, and he's essentially collecting them like batteries for his power. But like in the case of, for example, like Perry versus like a pack of Shucky dogs, well actually like a Church Graham, a black dog, is a very famous story in Britain, and Sir Peredur is not a very famous knight, and also Peredur, like in this particular case, like they are just by themselves, they have like 3 people who know that is who they are, and so the power of their story versus the power of the story of the dogs are actually much more powerful. And so in this case, it's a situation where neither Gwen nor Perry, I mean, Gwen would be better, but because she's by herself, she's lost all of like the power of Guinevere, because no one knows she's Guinevere except for our gang. But like neither Perry nor Gwen in that supermarket actually could have overpowered the dogs. They could only negotiate with them, and thankfully Gwen figures that out, and like I think of Guinevere as a diplomat. Like that's what a lot of kind of medieval like queens are in like stories, and like one of Gwen's powers is this like magical ability to kind of negotiate and be the diplomat and kind of traitors. But yeah, like the reason that Perry is immediately thrown to the ground and stuff, despite the fact they have super strength, is because they are not stronger than these dogs. They are not faster. They are not more durable. Their leg breaks, and if they had their throat torn out, they would have that would have just been it. They would have just been dead. So yeah, it's like one of the things that I really wanted to emphasize in these episodes is how the reason the Cataclysm is scary, even to people who have like knights' names and witches' names and queens' names, is that the sudden chaotic violence of it. Like you can suddenly encounter a story that is more powerful than you and suddenly be overpowered, and like that chaos is really hard to predict. I'm sorry, this was super self-indulgent. I just wanted to talk about the world.
This is why we're here. Also, so there's been a Discworld reference in the chat, and they're correct.
Yes!
A god exists as soon as you believe in it, and more people who believe in it, the more powerful it is.
Yes, more gods reference, my beloved.
Oh, I was assuming Hogfather as well. The god of hangovers.
This god, more powerful belief, making the god more powerful. Also a part of Final Fantasy XIV, one of my favorite video games. There's a pretty major plot point in that, and I just, in general, that this is one of the reasons why I like this episode so much. Is like the initial. I really like, you know, in whatever kind of fantasy setting, like the initial kind of season or what have you, it just has. There's so much mystery around how shit actually works, you know, and when you do start to get to do this theory crafting, and you know. Apparently, we've been seeing it on Tumblr, which is cool. People talking about it and theorizing, and I just love that kind of stage of a new thing, a new intellectual property of anything, where people are just trying to figure things out. Like kind of like, you know, like the first season of like Walking Dead or something, where people are trying to figure out how zombies work, whether it's like airborne or you have to get bitten or what have you. So that's one of the big points of intrigue for me, beyond all the obvious character stuff.
I'm really sorry. I'm gonna have to do an actor thing of leave because I have a tape.
We love
Good luck
you,
with your tape.
As much as I would love to stay, but thank you so much, guys. I love this so much. I'm gonna see how fast I can do this tape.
Oh well,
Okay. Well, good luck with it, and take as long as you need.
Thank you so much, and I miss you all.
Miss you too.
Bye,
miss you too,
Nicole.
baby.
Good luck.
Bye, darling.
Good luck.
Oh, we love Nicole.
I love everyone just having a moment for just Nicole.
She's great, and we appreciate her.
Like I said, this is the last listen on, but I think it's worth saying again. Like I think it was one of the first. I think it genuinely. I can't remember if it was like the first scene with with Gwen and Morgan, or if it was like the big speech in the supermarket. But like there was just a lot of times where we'd do the first take, I'd look at Ella and go, "Holy shit!"
I know. Like there's like we've already mentioned it. We can't really give you any details because massive spoilers, but like but yeah, there is a scene that Nicole does where the other actor in the scene, and they cannot reveal themselves because it's a spoiler. But like yeah, like we got to the scene where we were just all like, oh, okay, cool, great, amazing, that was incredible. But wait, I wanted to say, Tobias, in addition to Hendu energy, you also in this episode have to do like then quite dramatic performance, because you have this bit where like Di thinks that Perry's dying, and like I think up until this point it's been very clear that Di and Morgan are like, you know, inseparable and best friends and kind of found family. But I think that this is one of the moments, the same as we also see it a bit in the Lantern Man episode, where we see kind of how much Di cares about Perry as well. How do you think Di would feel if Perry actually died?
I think he'd be fine. No, he wouldn't. No. I think he would struggle a lot to come to terms with it, and I think I think he's afraid of change in multiple ways, in multiple different reasons, except for wanting more people and wanting to know that there is hope and everything. But I think the idea and concept of change, when something is settled, like when they're in this cottage and when they have some semblance of safety, it's like, this is nice, this is good. And I think the idea of anything like that being rocked or dislodged or just shattered, especially if it was the death, I think it's sort of like, well, I don't know what to do now. I built up most of my life thinking, hope, there is hope, this is all fine. And I think he would just spiral. Yeah. And I think it would probably, if Perry died and Morgan was still around, I think that their relationship would fracture slightly, because that dynamic has changed and they don't have that support necessarily in the same way. Yeah, I think he'd struggle a lot.
I think it is interesting to me, like, it's silly to say because I've made it all up, but it's interesting to me because I wrote, like, I always knew that like Di and Morgan grew up together, and then it took me a while to figure out that they kind of don't meet Perry until like after the Cataclysm, but then they get to know Perry across those like 9 months, and they kind of initially bond over the three of them being like the three freaks with the knights who like all don't fit in for different reasons, and then, you know, escape together and bring Gwen with them, and then Gwen leaves, so then they bond over that too. But like I think it is interesting kind of to write, because yeah, I do think that Perry has made themselves like, and I guess it is like, yeah, trauma and the apocalypse and all of the extraordinary circumstances of it, but Perry has made themselves quite a crucial element of that Di and Morgan dynamic, despite the fact that they're so much newer to the relationship of the two of you, and so much newer to that friendship, and like yeah, I don't really know where I'm going with this, but it's just interesting to write. I don't know if it's interesting for you to perform, but like it just kind of finding, like, I don't know, the narratives of the characters and how they think about each other and how they feel about each other and stuff. And yeah, I think you are right that like if Perry wasn't there, then Di and Morgan's friendship would be under a lot more strain than it would have been before they met Perry.
And I think as well, like within, or we've discussed this before about like the sibling energy between Morgan and Di, and I think I cannot put a term on what Di and Perry's dynamic is. I can't think of a word for it, because I think it sort of flip-flops between family energy, best friend energy, friendly, flirtatious, fighty energy. Like, I think it bounces back in so many different dynamics. Sorry, go on.
Everybody's taking notes in the chat.
Amber was just pointedly staring into the camera.
I didn't say nothing.
Sorry, there's
Like-
something...
No, I agree. Like, I think for me, like when I'm writing them, I think, and I think that's because they don't. Well, I think that's because Di hasn't really decided like where Perry, like other than just being like Perry is going to be a part of his life for the rest of his life as far as he's concerned. what box Perry fits into, I don't think Di's really decided. I think Perry's like pretty clear on this because this is just Perry's general approach to life, which is Perry's like, I am the knight. I am the knight, so I will be devoted and I will protect and I will caretake and I will never tell anyone how I'm feeling or the fact that I'm stressed about Kay because I'm just going to deal with it. I'm just going to deal with it by myself without telling anyone.
Is fine.
Like,
This
yeah,
is fine.
it's like they're like definitely like Perry in the direction of Di and Morgan is like, I'm the knight. And I think, yeah, like I guess like the only addition to that, I did put this in the playlist breakdown, is I think Perry's very fascinated by Di. I think because like Perry, like Morgan's cynicism makes a lot more sense to Perry than Di's optimism. And Perry is always like, but you live in a world where you have seen people get eaten by monsters and there like so many people have died and everything's awful and you keep making Buffy jokes and I don't understand like how and why. And like, you know, the fact that like Di still sings folk songs and gets excited and gets excited about magic and kind of thinks that some of this stuff is beautiful, despite how scary it is. And I think Perry is like very drawn to that because Perry wishes that they could enjoy it with that kind of innocence and naivety and idealism, but they really can't because there's a part of them that is like brutally pragmatic, and that part is much more like Morgan. So I think that Perry is very drawn to Di and just feels very protective of him because, as we've repeatedly discussed, Di is a puppy. But like I think, but then in reality, you know, Di isn't a puppy. He's an adult man and he has his own opinions and motivations and reasons for doing things, and he chooses to be optimistic on purpose and he chooses to be friendly and kind and even non-threatening on purpose. Like I think like that is something that he does very deliberately because he wants to make people feel comfortable. But yeah, I think Tobias and I are agreed, and everyone else gets really cross with us about this, but I don't think that Di knows how he feels about Perry. I think he knows he loves Perry, but like, you know, like I don't think that he knows what box that falls into.
I feel like what you're saying though is that if Perry died, that's so. A Dragon Age reference for us all is that there's a thing where you can harden a character. So if certain things happen in certain ways, I know. We'll talk about it. But yeah, essentially a character changes because certain events happen and they sort of harden. And I think listening to you talking that's what that sounds like, is you lose a lot of what, or I think Di might be very lost for a while, as you say. That's an interesting sort of way around to find it.
He would.
Sorry, I was just thinking of that and I wanted to make a Dragon Age reference.
He would what, Tobias?
So that was me slipping in a Pokemon reference in response to the Dragon Age reference as
Are we talking about harden? Because I think he hardens in are we talking there's different ways that Di could harden around Perry?
We were so close.
We're gonna, you know, stop.
You would go into a shell.
Stop. No, and I mean, like, I think, like, I think, again, this is a thing that, like, almost no one realizes. And then, see, this is, for me, the really interesting thing about the difference between, and actually, considering the group that we've got left, this is an interesting thing to, well, I'd love to discuss, is, like, the difference between the way that Di and Gwaine have a relationship versus the way that Di and Perry have a relationship. Because Di's relationship with Perry, as much as I adore Perry with all of my heart, like, Perry can be quite condescending to Di and kind of treat Di like he needs to be wrapped in cotton wool, whereas Gwaine treats Di much more like an equal. And if anything, sometimes Gwaine goes too far in the other direction and kind of assumes that nothing can hurt Di and he can just kind of do anything and Di will be fine.
Things can be assumed.
Yeah, like, yep. So why would you need to communicate with someone? Sounds fake. But I want to point out, you have suggested that
you suggested that Perry was hot. I want to point that in here because I feel like this needs to be said. Is that this was cut from the script? Is that Perry is hot?
Yeah, we were talking about
and
this.
I feel when we. I was
talking
like,
about this. We had to
telling me.
Ella had to cut a whole section basically talking about how hot Perry was.
Because I mean they're all like, listen, all the knights are hot because of the whole thing where like they're the knights of the round table. Like there is a kind of glamour effect, as in like a fey glamour, and I mean, to be fair, like also to Morgan, but in an interesting, like in a different way. Oh, I'm gonna sound like a real lesbian here, but I am. So you know, like but you know, like. Sorry. the way that Morgan is glamoured. So someone on Tumblr asked for like art references for the characters, and I think I'm going to reshare it because I shared a description for Gwen, but no one knew who Gwen was yet, so I put it under a cup. But like I'll reshare it now. But like, so Guinevere, because she is Guinevere, is beautiful. And despite the apocalypse, like, she always has this beauty to her, because that is a defining trait of Guinevere. And so she has this kind of glamour about her. The knights similarly have that glamour about them. They seem larger than life and brighter than life and more vivid the more their story weaves around them. And so both Perry and Gwen, like, Gwen was good looking before the apocalypse, and now everyone's fucked. And like Perry similarly has got this like real kind of like a glamour to them, which is why, like, you know, Dai has this line where he's like, you know, even in mortal peril you have perfect hair. And as much as it's a joke, it is also world building, because like Perry, if they died, would be a beautiful corpse, because they would be a knight's corpse, because they would be an Arthurian corpse. And in Arthuriana, like, when people die, they die beautifully, like, because of the nature of those stories. Whereas Morgan is beautiful, but she's not beautiful in a like civilized way. Like, the court and Arthur's table like represent civilization in the sense of like empire and Rome and Britain and like empire building. Whereas what Morgan represents is like the soul of the land. What she represents is like lightning and storms and the Arctic. And so when the apocalypse happens, she becomes beautiful, but beautiful in a way that's a bit frightening. Like, she's as beautiful as a wildfire. Like, when you look at her, you feel intimidated. Like, she is beautiful, but she's intimidating. And despite the fact that like Morgan herself is like quite like a tomboy and like has like, you know, she's always going to be in kind of like a boiler suit and just generally a bit scruffy, like, there is something like really vivid about her that I think Guinevere in particular like finds fascinating, because there is stuff about gender in this series, at least for me as a woman writing, and like for Morgan and Guinevere, it's a lot about like a tame woman versus an untamed woman. Like, Morgan is very much like a wild woman. She has not been tamed by society. She will not be tamed by society. She cannot be tamed by society. Whereas like Guinevere is like the platonic ideal of like society's perfect woman. And so Gwen, when she looks at Morgan, is like, oh, you're everything I want to be because you're freedom and you're power. And meanwhile Morgan's like, you're everything I want to be because you're like accepted and wanted and loved. And so they're both very fascinated by each other. That got really off track of whether or not Perry was hot, but yes, Perry is hot. Do the knights keep their scars? Yes, for sure. And like I think like it's they do, like, in terms of like they especially keep story relevant scars. So like, if a monster does them some damage and a relevant monster does them some damage, then yes, they definitely keep those. Non-story relevant scars or clashing stories, it kind of depends, but broadly speaking, it depends on how deeply the story bit. That's how I think of it in my head. I'm not sure that really makes much sense, but it's in the battle of the two stories, how close did one story get to killing the other? And if it got very close, then they have a scar, and if it didn't, then they don't. So like, I don't know, if Perry met like a pixie and it like bit their finger, I think that scar would disappear. But like, they probably will have scars from the Shucky dogs.
Like how if I can do a metaphor here, like how, you know, water is soft if you land in it gently and slowly, but if you go right onto it, it's hard as concrete.
Yeah, for sure, exactly. Like, it's all about like, actually, I often think about the magic as like water in a river, and like and people who have stories around them like rocks in a river, and the more stuff you've got going on, the more like water and current you wrap around yourself, and the more magic you wrap around yourself, the more powerful your story, but also the less, to some degree, the less controllable your story. How much that is true, we shall see, but there's a bit of discussion of that in later episodes in the series, as well as like, when your story gets more powerful, it has more power over you. And so you kind of need to have a very clear idea of who you are and how you're controlling it in order to kind of go into that. And if you don't, then you might end up kind of pulled into a story that you don't want to be in. I'm going to shut up because I talked a lot.
It's so good. I was going to say that who needs HRT when you've got like a name and the apocalypse? Like this.
No, for sure. Canonically, the apocalypse will trans your gender in Camlann. Camlann, the magic will trans your gender. You just pick a name. If you're trans,
I think that was a joke at one point, which is if I ever did go on T and my voice was just slowly dropping, it's just like, oh yeah, it's just plot testosterone.
Yeah. Like,
magic plot tea. Like,
Well, it's probably going to get. I'd probably get that sooner than I would from
right?
character
Yeah,
they've
yeah,
just made to me.
yeah. I think we've made that joke multiple times throughout the series.
Make it become dark, not dark, but beautiful and terrible as the dawn. Treacherous as the sea, stronger than the foundations of the earth. It's amazing what it can do.
See, that's Morgan. That's Morgan all over.
I mean,
bless
that's
her.
hot though, isn't it? Like we're just. I'm
Oh,
sorry,
yeah.
no one's saying
No
this yet. Like
question.
Morgan sounds the way you just described. Maybe this is just. I know I'm I know I'm very queer. But like that's hard. The untamed wild. What goals, man?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, she is to me. Like, I think like that's the thing. Like, she's a difficult woman. Like, and I love her for that. I love Morgan for that. And Di loves her for that. Like, this is actually a really big thing because both Di and Morgan have always performed gender a little bit differently to how everyone wanted them to, even pre-apocalypse. In terms of like, Di was too queer and soft and emotional, and Morgan was too angry and difficult and stubborn and outspoken. And the two of them love each other for their weirdness and the way they set apart, and have always kind of balanced each other out. Morgan is very much the person who's like, no, he asked for like extra tomatoes or whatever, like, you know, she goes to the restaurant. And meanwhile Di's being like, okay, but you could like text her and ask her for coffee, maybe. Like that's the thing that you could do.
The cat has
The cat
returned.
just joined us.
The cat has returned. It has used the door again.
Baby. Come say hi. No, she's just gonna hide under. Hey, baby, are you coming? Okay, just deal with my cat 1 second.
Just Ella, what you were saying about Morgan. We kind of mentioned it when we were listening to the episode about like how the scene in the garage, you sort of had Morgan like cover, because also like the sound design in that scene as well, like the idea is that Morgan is like cleaning up while Gwen is walking around, like a deliberately there's a sound of like a curtain being pulled, and it was just this idea of like, let's let some light in, like just putting stuff
Putting
away
out
while the
pizza
scene is
boxes.
going on. And yeah, I think that kind of emphasis. Cat. Oh,
Sorry, she's a precious little princess who will only really sit on you if you have a pillow. She's like 16. Her name's Fifi. We didn't name her, but it works. She is, yeah, she's a princess. He's a baby. He's a baby. Yeah, this is Fifi. Everyone. Sorry, this is completely nothing related. So yes.
Amber, if I'm right, you were particularly excited that for this episode for one particular setup that you got to do for the first time now. You want to talk about?
Let's talk about the truck. Let's talk about the truck.
This was hyped up for for me and Ella for weeks and potentially months, and then for days as we got into record week, because I think episode 4 would have been day 3.
Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah.
And you were so excited about the truck.
Well, so
I laughed, and then you guys were like, "Why are you laughing?" And I was like, "Because it's an objectively hilarious setup, and I'm imagining putting people in this situation." You were both like being like so serious about it.
Well, it was more because like the truck setup was the compromise. So like to go through the whole thing. So in this episode, there are characters in a truck, right? So when we were talking about doing the recording, initially I was like, right, you know, we're going to be recording a lot in the studio, but I think it would be interesting to kind of get some stuff outside of the studio. So we in episode 1, you have everyone running around the garden space at the back of my flat for the chase scene, and for this I was like, well, why don't we put the actors in a car? And then I'll put a microphone between them, and then we can like get like an authentic car sound. And I was talked off that particular ledge, but, like rightly so, I think, because it would have been impractical, and also it was an untested thing, and untested stuff is for something this size, as much as we did get to play around with things, like it was an environment with lots of variables that we couldn't control, like cars going past and things. So we made the right decision. The compromise instead, also it would have involved doing another risk assessment, and there's already like quite a few risk assessments for this show, so didn't want to make Ross do another one. But what we ended up doing was, so if you see the studio, you have there's a sofa here, and I also have these two little stools. So what we did was I put the microphone sort of in the middle of the room, had these two stools kind of next to each other, and I said, right, these are the front seats, and then the sofa was the back of the truck, and then we recorded it in stereo as well, so you meant you got a bit of space, and then that's what became the truck setup. And then we even found a steering wheel for Robin, which was a spontaneous on the day thing, because there was a point where Robin said, like, oh, it's a shame I don't have a steering wheel, I feel like that would really help. And I sort of went, oh, it's a shame I don't have one. And then I remembered I'd recently got a box of like old Nintendo Wii stuff from my mum last time she was visiting. I was like, oh, ran through, grabbed one, came back, and I'm like, steering wheel. And yeah, that's truck setup. And like, I feel like now that I'm explaining it, it's slightly less hype than I feel like it was at the time. I think this might be a they had to be there kind of thing.
It was magical.
It was great.
Yeah, it was a nice
And it
blast of
genuinely helped
nostalgia
because you've
for
got
me.
that sort of. Oh, you after you.
Oh, sorry, no, it was a blast of nostalgia for me because I remember that was the wheel that my little cousins would get given without the actual Wii controller in it, so they could pretend they were playing because there weren't enough controllers to go around.
Which is exactly what I was given too.
Yeah,
That is
essentially
right.
Yeah.
But
I enjoyed
it
it
was
just
helpful
as
because it really gives you that sense of being like, I mean, as an actor, obviously we talked about effort noises, but it's kind of that thing of, looking out the window and coming, even you can hear me doing it now, coming on and off mic, just because that's sort of what would happen. And so to give you that sense of it was helpful having it just so I could almost rest my arm, because then I got an idea of what it would actually be like to move. So it is genuinely really helpful when you do stuff like that, because it makes all of our movement more naturalistic, which our movement and voice are connected. So it's really good.
I really enjoyed like just generally watching the ways that like everyone would start interacting with each other when in the truck. Also because like inevitably whenever we are in the truck, Perry's driving, and so like Robin like often falls into the role of group parent anyway, but especially when driving, like, it's just like Robin's sitting there on this stool being quite serious, like to the point that they're kind of like checking their mirrors and like stuff like that, kind of leaning over, and meanwhile everyone else is just being chaotic in the background, just like having a conversation, arguing with each other, talking about other things, looking out the window, and Robin's just the meme of like McDonald's pulls into the drive-thru, orders one black coffee and leaves, and like that's just very much the vibe of the Camlann gang in the truck.
There was a moment during the edit for this episode where I was using an internal car ambience, right? And basically Ella, the tissue's rubbing against the microphone.
Oh, sorry.
But I kind of had this recording, and then halfway through the recording, the indicator goes off, and it starts clicking, and I'm like, now, this is an interesting discussion. Do I leave that in? Is Perry still using the indicators?
Yes.
In the apocalypse,
100%.
there's no one left. They've seen no one alive for literally months. There is just empty road.
That doesn't mean I break the rules of the road.
You're right. You're so right. It's so true. Perry absolutely would still use all of their warning lights. Like they park in Carmarthen and they've fucking got the lights on. There's no one else in Carmarthen. There is definitely no one else.
You do an excellent parallel park.
So speaking of
you don't even park on the double yellow lights. I bet you drove longer to find somewhere that you could legally park, even though I meant walking.
Well, it's all we have is the rule of law. We have nothing else. We must preserve something.
So, just talking about parking. So, the all the scenes in Carmarthen were done by our fantastic guest sound designer Kai Gordon Pritchard, amazing sound designer. But we were talking about the scene that Kai was designing, and they sent me a picture of Google Maps, of Google Street View, of the train station in Carmarthen, and on Google Street View in the train station in the no parking zone there is a car. And Kai sent me the picture, and I'm like, and they sent me a message with it being like, in my head, this is where they park.
but they were like I bet like both Morgan and Di. I don't think Di ever got his driving license. I think Morgan did,
Too
and
gay
then
to
Di
drive.
was like, I don't need to worry about that. Well, no, it's just like he just kind of shunted that responsibility onto Morgan. I think Gwaine can drive, but is not a super safe driver, and Morgan gets stressed when Di gets in the car with Gwaine. But like sometimes he does because they'll both be getting home somewhere together. And Perry's a very responsible driver, by far the most responsible driver of all of them. But no, I bet like Morgan drove around, then Morgan broke enough like road laws that Perry was like, I will be the driver from now on.
I am the designated driver.
Like, took over. But oh yeah.
I was going to say on the Google Maps thing as well, the train station, that is 100% true from the amount of times, and I'm sure you can back me up on this, Ella, going to Carmarthen train station, and there's like a bay out front, and I'm pretty sure it specifically says no parking here. And then there's one bit that's like, short stay, but everyone parks there, and everyone will park behind that spot, and we'll go, oh, don't worry, it's fine, everybody parks here.
Yeah,
Everybody does it, so
yeah,
it's fine.
It's every single time. Like the cottage where the gang are, that's my nan's house, and so I go to Carmarthen train station to like go see my nan, but also spend a lot of time in Carmarthen and have done since I was a kid, which is part of why they go to Carmarthen. It's also for other reasons. So first of all, fun fact: there is a direct train from Manchester to Carmarthen, which is wild. Like, it's still wild to me. You don't even have to.
It's a long train.
It takes so long, and it's such a small train, and there's not a like cafe or anything. It just keeps going. It just keeps going. It's just 2 carriages, and it's like 6 hours. Anyway, whew. I love Carmarthen. Carmarthen is a slightly kind of odd place, and the idea of it in a post-apocalypse was interesting to me. But yeah, like I think like I've the drive between Carmarthen and my nan's house is like so vivid in my head that I like knew exactly where they were, and so I could kind of imagine it. But like when you get to like the cottage that the gang are in, so they're kind of downhill a bit, so it's like on this like very, very big hill, borderline mountain, and you've got like these big fields at the top of a big forest, and then like quite a steep drop. And whenever I used to go visit, when me and my brother were kids, we'd get in the truck, and our nan's partner Jan would let us stand in the truck bed at the back and hold on to the bars, and then just like drive down the hill, but like standing on the back of the truck so we could see all the mountains and the valleys coming out in front of us, and it was the best thing ever. Also, my nan has a flock of sheep, and but she's also half blind and has a collapsed lung. And she kept insisting on like going to the top of the mountain to look after the sheep, and we were worried about her, so we bought her a quad bike. She's like 5 foot tall, and she would get on the quad bike.
Such an off-kilter solution.
Incredible.
She would get on this quad bike and drive up the mountain every day. It was great.
Wait, so your nan is half blind, right?
Yeah.
And your solution was buy him a quad bike.
Well, what you have to understand is it was less dangerous than letting her drive a car.
Put a helmet on her, she'll be fine.
My brother learned how to driving the truck because my nan always just so happened to invite us during lambing season, and so my brother learned how to drive a truck, like helping us deal with like the fucking sheep. But also me and my brother used to take it in turns. This is like such a long story, and I don't have time to explain, but like functionally, my nan and Jan have worked with Indigenous like activists around the world for like 45 years. So Jan has like a deerskin like quiver and like a bow and arrow that she made like whittled out of wood. And so what my brother and I used to do was used to take it in turns sitting on the quad bike and driving down the field, and then the other one would shoot at with a bow and arrow, and you'd see how many like if you could hit the other one on the quad bike. This just I'm just talking about memories of my nan's now, but it's really fun.
It was more for you than it was for.
Well, no, to be fair, like Nan did use it because she shouldn't have been like walking up there. Like she absolutely shouldn't have been walking up there.
She shouldn't be driving up there either.
Well, to be fair, I mean,
It's slightly reminded me. So, for various reasons, I ended up running a circus company in my early 20s.
God,
We all
what?
did strange things, but like this isn't just tangential. But like
Why are we learning this now?
I think I told you.
We definitely learned it because we saw the hot photos of them and their wife.
Oh yes, we did see that.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. So we ran a
I'm
circus
sorry, your
company,
wife is in a corset with long red hair, and I'm supposed to say she's not hot? Like, I'm sorry.
I know she is. Like, we talk about like wild, but yeah, yes, okay. My wife is exceptionally attractive, and not what I was going to say in the story, and I'm very distracted. There was a point, yes. So motorcycles. So we ended up going to gigs with on motorcycles because the guy who we were running this company with, he'd got his motorcycle license, and at one point we were traveling with quite a lot of equipment. I think there was fire staffs and stuff, and this was such a terrible idea. Please don't try this at home, team. But we ended up doing this drive, and we had like these staffs. It looked like we were jousting. We had the staffs like held on to the bike. It was longer than the bike on this motorbike, and I was riding, on the back of this thing. So I think that's how Gwaine rides. That's what I'm thinking, is that he rides a motorbike with a jousting thing. But yeah, this was how we were getting around places. It turns out you can melt a Doc Martens shoe on the edge of a motorbike as well. We learnt this. Don't do this in your lives, children. It was a terrible, terrible idea. However, yeah, it just made me think of that with your quad bike. So I was like, so you on your quad bike with the arrows, and then we'll get on motorbikes with like javelins or like with jousting things, and together we'll create a new sport. It'll be great.
I listen, I mean, like, A, I'm here for it. B, absolutely Gwaine is the kind of guy to ride a motorbike. C, however, just for everyone's knowledge, like Di says in the episode, the stories work better the more you lean into them, which actually means the knights they've got a bunch of horses. And Gwaine did not steal a horse, although he probably should have, when he left the knights. But Gwaine could, when going out, like, questing around Glastonbury, was fully knight in armor on a horse with a sword is more Gwaine's vibe. We'll turn up, we'll pick you up with one arm off the ground and swing you onto the horse, that kind of whole deal. Thing. Yeah. But he's definitely more built than Legolas. Like, it's his thing. Like, he's more of he's a rugby boy, because Gwaine isn't really an archer, he's a sword boy.
Perry was the ball in rugby. Like, Perry, you just lift Perry.
Perry was not on the rugby team, sweetheart. Like, Perry.
That's what I'm saying. Perry was the ball.
Perry could have been the ball, but do you know what? I genuinely, Perry did not. Rugby. The thing is that Perry did not believe in sports before the apocalypse, and I don't think the apocalypse has changed their mind. They would not have been caught dead within, half a mile of a rugby pitch. They were in the library playing video games, probably Minecraft. Like, they're not.
They ran. They absolutely were part of a D&D group. This is something, yeah.
Real life, Robin. I think you'd be a good winger.
Oh.
I don't know what that is. I don't watch sport. I'm a qualified personal trainer.
I'm clear, but I'm also Welsh. It's in the blood.
Oh, that's okay. I'm very grateful. I think, for what I learned about. No, sorry, my cat's batting at my hands. She wants attention. I don't know much about rugby.
Fifi is like, queer people can play rugby too. Stop it, Robin.
I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying that I didn't. I didn't do much sport. I do teach fitness for anyone who's not around, but not sport, like weightlifting things.
I think what Tobias means is that you would be good at being the fast one.
Oh, thank you, baby.
Winger is the one on the edge of the pitch who runs quick.
Yeah.
And even though you've got no practice, you can still just wing it.
Hey!
Good night, everyone.
That's all. I hope you were listening for that one. Yeah.
I actually had a conversation with Felix, who plays Kay, about various characters' positions on the rugby team. We have agreed that Arthur is fullback. Gwaine is fly half because we don't have a Lancelot. If Lancelot was here, Lancelot would be fly half. But Gwaine is the second knight.
So you're putting together the Camlann rugby team.
Well, they were
the fantasy rugby league team of Camlann.
They were a university rugby team, I had to broadly know where they were. Like the fact that Gwaine is the fly half is important, actually, to the plot and to his character. It's
You
part
should
of why
explain that
he
to
is
me
the
then,
way
because
he
I don't know
is.
what that means either.
It's basically just the hot shot of the team, essentially.
Right.
I feel like, I mean, it's biased. Correct me if like
Yeah, you're Mike Phillips, you're Anton Dupont, you're
You're speaking foreign language to me. I'm sorry.
You are the like hotshot goal scoring cool person who's crucial to the whole team. And so often like it's kind of the most like popular and kind of again like cool position to play. Like everyone's kind of working around you, and you're pulling everyone together. But it also means that like in terms of like pre-apocalypse social politics, like Gwaine was like both super popular but also super necessary to like the group dynamic, and so he kind of knew that if he like did something to trouble that dynamic, then like kind of there'd just be a little black hole in the middle of the team. And because like as we've discussed, like pre-apocalypse Arthur was not as important as he is post-apocalypse to the team.
Can you
Gwaine
put this
was
like in musical theatre terms? Like if what would like in Les Mis, like I'm assuming that like is this like Marius in Les Mis? Like everyone works around him and he's quite important, but really he's just the princess track. Is that what we're talking about?
no,
Like,
no, like he's actually super important. Like
he's like Valjean.
He's like the best player. Yeah, like he's
Yeah.
not necessarily the best player. Everyone's good in different ways, but like yeah, like he's cool. Like
Magical Mr. Good to know.
His magical Mr. Mistopheles.
But yeah, but, you know, it's-
Mistopheles. Okay,
like,
cool.
Yeah, like and then because for Gwaine it's kind of a problem of like both he was like real fucking good at rugby, and so he was the reason his team would win matches, and also he was really good at the social element, and everyone liked him, and everyone got along, and he's a party boy, and he keeps everyone's spirits up, and for all of these various reasons was reluctant to tip the boat because he felt a responsibility to his friends. But then unfortunately his friends go a little bit loony post-apocalypse, and he has to kind of reassess the caliber of the company he keeps. And also even before that he does have like this nerd on the side who he occasionally hangs out with but doesn't tell anyone about.
Just nice.
Just yeah. It helps him with his homework. Di, who's never gotten above like an F in anything. Like yeah, like sure.
Can you do algebra?
One brain cell between them.
I actually think that Gwaine is more academic than Di. Like I think he's like I'm pretty sure that like I had originally written like which specific universities they went to and what they're studying, and Gwaine is studying art history. Like Gwaine is like quite smart. Like he just again kind of generally kind of hides that.
Yeah, but he's hot. It's what's the Derry Girls line? Is anybody that hot should at least have the decency to be thick, like a bit thick.
Yeah, unfortunately, Gwaine is both. Like he's going.
The image of him sat next to Gwaine while Gwaine's doing like work and writing sums and stuff, and writes the number 42, and Di's just like, yeah, I like the Hitchhiker's Guide too. No, it's not. That's just math.
But I think that's the thing. I think like Gwaine finds like Di's kind of pop culture obsession cute. Like and I think probably because like Gwaine is a person who's always been under a lot of pressure from everyone. Like he gets onto a very academic track and onto the university rugby team and stuff because he has a pressure to succeed and perform well and everything. And I think that means that he's kind of socially pressured into like not having time for frivolous silly things that don't have a lot of social currency, whereas like Di is like, hey listen, I was fucked from when I was a kid because I'm like already too weird to ever fit in that way, so I might as well have fun enjoying like anime and Pokemon and Sonic and whatever. And so Di is just like so unabashedly, unashamedly someone who just like gets excited about weird, silly, embarrassing things, and Gwaine is someone who has never ever let himself like not perform like the absolute like top appearance of everything all the time. And so when he gets to be with Di, he gets to be like a nerd and play Super Smash Brothers and just like relax, which is important to him.
You've given me the image of Di going to watch one rugby game that Gwaine might have played in and just shouting from the sidelines, gotta go fast.
And you know what? Like the thing is that Gwaine would have absolutely loved that and would never have told anyone, including Di. Anyway, we're just talking about? Anyway, this isn't relevant.
So just to recap, anyone, we now have Camlann the musical. We have Camlann the rugby team, and we have Camlann High School, the Camlann High School RPG that'll be coming at some point.
Or Camlann High School musical. Don't forget that.
Yeah, Camlann High School musical.
Camlann High School musical. Okay, we are at
Because
5 to 10.
once they play rugby, it's all in one.
Instead of basketball. There we go.
Yeah, just
It's
go
the
in
dream
singing.
ballet
Got to
sequence.
Get your head in the game. Does
I
this
enjoyed
make
that.
Guy? What's the name? I can't remember the female love interest because that's
Gabriella.
cute. Yeah. Does this make? I mean, I don't know if Perry is therefore Ryan and Sharpay, but I'm okay with.
I've not seen High School Musical either. Sorry.
Neither have I.
Just the coach being like,
because you're babies.
You can't be a rugby player and gay. And Gwen's like, do you not
I mean,
think
isn't
I
that
can
the
be both?
What is this witchcraft? This sorcery.
Okay.
Gareth Thomas is beautiful.
It is 5 to 10.
Would be High
Can you
School
tell?
the musical, the series, the audio drama, right? That is what we're
Gaiden, yeah.
What I've learned is that apparently the most socially radical thing I've done in my podcast is say that rugby players can be gay.
If it helps, I've had to have that argument as well.
I hate that you've had to have that argument. It's
Rugby
stupid.
players can be gay and they should be gay. Like,
I mean, they do spend their days hugging sweaty men, so I suppose.
Listen, hey,
they just need
there's
to
a lot
realise
about
what
that,
it is they
obviously.
have, which is something real
Yeah.
special.
Yeah.
Where
Okay.
else do you get to put your head between other people's butts?
In front of
Wrestling.
people who
But
are
in a
cheering
scrum.
you on while you do it.
70,000 people have paid to see you put your face between them.
I mean, and that's how Dice
We're
makes his.
once again getting off track.
Okay,
Let's get back
it is 5 to 10. For the third time, it is 5 to 10. In fact, no, it's after 5 to 10 now.
My
We
face
should do
hurts with
roundup and plugs and things. So I don't think we have any questions in the chat. I think everyone's just been just giving us some delightful comments about everything that we've been talking about. Yeah. So okay, let's start down by the bottom and then do plugs. So Tobias, do you want to kick things off with some plugs and things?
Yeah. I'm not going to try and look them up again. My social media stuff is in the chat because I think the bot did it.
Because we can do that now. I figured out how to do that.
The bot did it. Do I have anything to plug? I don't think I do.
That show what you did.
I think it's finished.
Oh yeah.
Is it done?
It's done now.
Oh.
It's done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You missed your
finished that.
chance, folks.
Damn it.
Yeah,
So sorry.
You could have seen a fun play. No, that's done now. What am I working on next?
Now you've
Rain.
played yourself. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm recording a couple of games at the moment, but I can't talk about them. There we go. That's
You should follow Tobias's socials so that
Yeah,
when
that.
he's in stuff, you will see what he's in when he's allowed to talk about it.
Metasweet Magic has said the Welsh Gov advert.
Yeah, I am the voice of workplace recycling Wales for the next 2 years, and I'm also the voice of Blackpool Pleasure Beach and West Midland Safari Park. So if you see those adverts on TV, that's me.
amazing.
So go to West Midland Safari Park, go to Blackpool Pleasure Beach. You can meet SpongeBob. You'll hear it in the ad.
when you go, tell them that Tobias sent you, and whoever cast that advert should make sure to get the same actor next time, because you wouldn't have gone if it wasn't for that one actor in that one ad.
Oh, my face hurt.
Oh.
Mine too. Anyway, Paul, do you want to do your plugs?
Okay. Thanks. Oh, I've got a pop up. I'll just do the same thing with my plugs. Does that work? I'll put my name in the. Is it my
Yeah,
name or
it's come
the
up.
characters?
No,
There we go.
it's
Right.
come up,
Okay.
it's come up,
Okay. Good. Yeah, my stuff there. Viewfinder's out on Steam. Highland Song's out on Steam. I don't think I'd signed anything for this. There's an anthology podcast called Observable Radio. I've got a bit part in. I think their next episode. So, look forward to that.
Oh
I
yeah.
guess.
Ooh. Wait, you're also no, yeah.
Oh, I heard the fluttering of an NDA over in the corner there.
The buzzing sound of
this sort of-
impending.
Very
just
quiet.
lots of bees all of a sudden appearing. Just hang on. Shot of adrenaline.
Robin, where can we find you? What do you do on the internet?
I do lots of things on the internet. You can find me at Robin Holdaway, most social medias. A lot of TikTok recently still, where I make kind of trans and queer educational content. So do come along, follow me there. We talk about gender stuff and occasionally about board game stuff and occasionally about, I don't know, baking if anyone ever wants to hear about that. So yes, I'm on most social media, and then audiobooks and stuff like that. Stuff I normally plug. Nothing new. Please hire me. You know, that's I'm always always on the hunt for work. But yes, that's me.
Ross, where can we find you? Tell us about your cool things.
I'm working. I've been working for the last year on this really cool podcast, Camlann.
Where can people find this podcast?
I wouldn't recommend looking for it on my Twitter in the chat, because that's not my Twitter. I don't know who that is. I don't stand by anything they say.
Have I spelled your name wrong again? Have I done that?
No, it's just
it's just
entirely.
Oh right.
That's okay. I'm Ross D. McFarlane on Twitter. And yeah, Ross D. McFarlane Poetry on Insta. And this worked last week, so last stream, so I'm going to try it again. Always looking for work. Last week I got a writer's gig, so always looking for work. Maybe in a row.
Hire Ross.
Hire
Hire
Ross.
Ross and hire Robin. Just to be clear, to be fair, like if you can squeeze into Robin's schedule among the many cool like queer audiobooks and like queer content that they make, they are, as you will have seen from and heard from this podcast, a fantastic voice actor and all-round actor. Hire Ross. He is wonderfully incisive. He is a beautiful writer, both beautiful to see and also writes beautiful things. And your projects will be better for hiring these wonderful people. Yeah.
Wonderful. Ella,
What do you do, Ella?
What's your turn? Your turn.
Hi, I do stuff. I made this podcast called Camlann.
I've done that one already.
I'm head of production for an app called ZRX, which hosts two audio drama apps, one called Zombies Run and one called Marvel Move. Zombies Run you can have for free forever. It's a post-apocalyptic zombie story. It's an emotional queer story. The main character is bi, and he's kind of radioing through to you and giving you some advice on like how to escape some zombies and how to help this like community of survivors. It's really cool. And then Marvel Move, you can get like a free trial. So if you're not sure whether you would particularly want to pay, I think it's like £5 a month or something, then you can just listen to it for free for a month. There is an X-Men series on there, a Doctor Strange Scarlet Witch series, a Thor and Loki Couch to 5K, a Daredevil series, and a Hulk series. I am now responsible for casting, recording, directing, and script developing, all of it. I think they're really cool. Yeah, please do check them out. I'm really proud of like everything we've done. Our casts are amazing. So yeah, that's ZRX on the App Store. You can download it for free. And yeah, is there anything else? I am also directing an adaptation of Carmilla, starring Maeve de Bruyn, if you know podcast stuff, as Carmilla, which is going to come out on the Read Dracula podcast feed later this year. That's going to be really cool too. I'm very excited about it. It's first ever vampire novel. It's a lesbian love story, kind of gothic story. It's great.
Hell yeah. Amazing. Cool. Right. So that's us. That's our stream. Thank you so much for coming along. We won't be here. There won't be a stream on Wednesday because I have a thing on. So there won't be any stream. So we'll be back next week. We're gonna have our guest sound designer for episode 4, Kai Gwilym Pritchard. They're going to be joining me for the behind the scenes stream to talk about their sound design process for the kind of big set piece in episode 4, because like Kai did most of the work in this episode, so it doesn't really make sense for me to just sit and talk about what I didn't do. And then we'll be back with episode 5 for in a couple of weeks, and then we'll be doing another one of these with these wonderful people and more people. Who knows? So you won't be seeing us you won't be seeing us on Wednesday. So enjoy the rest of your week. I hope it is lovely. I hope it is wonderful. I hope it is not too busy, and I hope you enjoyed listening to Camlann. And we will hopefully see you soon. So take care.
Wait. Sorry, I know you were saying goodbye, but I just remembered we promised Hara that we tell a joke. What do you call a nun with a washing machine on her head?
Don't know. What do you call a nun with a washing machine on her head?
Systematic.
Hey.
Okay. Good night, everybody. Good night.
I don't
Good
get
night,
it.
everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.